You think you don't understand economics? You do. The charts, the models, the jargon, the politics, that wasn't economics. That was misdirection. All the boring, complicated, confusing stuff trained you to look away. That was on purpose. Economics is something else. And once you see what it actually is, things start to make sense. Watch. Gas is up $1.50 a gallon. More like $2 if you're on the West Coast. You felt it, so you drove less. You combined errands. You skipped a trip. You made the exact right call. And you did it without having to know a single thing about the Strait of Hormuz, refinery capacity, OPEC, shipping costs, or any of the rest of it. You didn't need to. The price told you everything you needed. That's economics. Not the textbook, not the chart, that. What just happened in your head. And somebody wanted you to miss it. Why is a bigger question than one video can answer, so we're not going to answer it today. What we're going to do is get the right thing in focus, because once you can actually see how this works, you'll see the who and the why for yourself. Here's the thing you just did. You received a signal. A price is a signal. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what it is. You know how a radio works? You turn the dial, somewhere out there a tower is broadcasting. News, music, whatever. You don't have to know how the tower works. You don't have to know the frequency. You don't even have to know what city it's in. You just tune in and receive what they're sending. A price works the same way. The gas station is the receiver. The price on the sign is the signal coming through. Somewhere out there, across the world, billions of people are making decisions. Oil producers, shippers, refiners, governments, traders, and drivers just like you. Every one of those decisions is being broadcast. The market compresses all that information into one number, the price at the pump. You didn't need to understand all the complexities of what went into it, you just needed to receive the signal. That's what this series is about, signal and noise. Today we're going to look at the signal, what it is, what it does, how it works, so that by the end, you can see it operating in your own life clearly, the way you just saw it at the gas pump. Next time we look at what disrupts the signal, because if you've ever felt like something is off, like prices don't quite make sense, like the world isn't adding up, that feeling is real. Once you understand what a clean signal looks like, you'll start to see how much of what's wrong with our economy is downstream of the noise. Things you're feeling every day. Wage stagnation, the cost of groceries, you or your kids unable to afford a house. All of it is the product of the same thing. Noise corrupting the signal. But first, the signal. For us to look at what it actually does, we need to go back to the gas pump. When you pulled in and saw the price had jumped, something incredible happened in an instant. You may not have realized it because it happens every day. But here's what you just processed. Geopolitics in the Middle East, refinery capacity across 3 continents, shipping routes, OPEC production decisions, currency exchange rates, federal tax policy, state tax policy, local distribution costs, seasonal demand, future supply forecasts, thousands of inputs, millions of decisions, all of it happening right now, all over the world, in real time. All of it compressed into one number, the most information-dense number there is. You interpreted it instantly, weighed its implications, and chose. You don't have to think about all that data, just its impact on your wallet in that moment. That's what the market does. It compresses all that into one signal, the price. And here's the thing, no human being could process all that information directly. Not the smartest economist alive, not a supercomputer. Not 1,000 bureaucrats in a room. That information doesn't exist anywhere to be collected. Every person making every decision is doing it in their own head, in their own moment. The market doesn't gather information that already exists. It creates the information by letting people choose. That's not a small thing. That's a miracle of coordination happening every single day, in every single market, on every single product you buy, and almost nobody notices. But compression only gets you so far. The signal tells you what the price is, it doesn't tell you what to do about it. 2 people can read the same number and make completely opposite decisions. Can they both be right? I want to build a more powerful computer. Been wanting to for a while now. But there's one part in particular that gives me pause. The graphics card. The thing that makes games look good, and allows me to edit videos like this one. When it launched a little over a year ago, this card cost $1,000. Today, same card, same store, it's $1,300 and climbing, up roughly a third in less than a year. Why? Data centers. AI companies sell two things: access to their models and to the hardware that runs them. Personally, I use Claude, and that little baby is kind of like his brain. And the more demand there is for AI, the more hardware they need to satisfy it. Companies like Anthropic and OpenAI are buying up components like this faster than they can be produced. So here's the question: should I buy one now? Some people are, lots of people. They want the upgrade enough to pay the extra money. For them, the answer is yes. The new card is worth the cost right now. For me, the answer is no, not right now. I want the new build, I just don't want it enough to pay the higher price. Oh wait, here's the point. Both of us are right. Same card, same price. Two opposite decisions. Both correct. Think back to the radio. Two people can be tuned in to the same station, hearing the exact same broadcast, and one of them turns it up, the other turns it off. The signal didn't tell them what to do, the signal just gave them what they needed to make their own call. Because the price isn't telling us what the card is worth, the price is telling us what the card costs right now, with this much supply, with this much demand. What it's worth to me sitting at my desk with my budget, with my priorities, that's a different question, and only I can answer it. Value isn't in the thing. Value is in the relationship between the thing and the person looking at it. Same object, different value to different people. Same person, different value at different times. All value is subjective. The market is taking all those subjective preferences, mine included, and compressing them into a price. Think of it like this. Every time we make a purchase, we're voting for more of the thing to be produced. And the reverse is true when we sell something. The price is giving every person enough information to make their own call. Buy, wait, find a substitute, skip it entirely. All those are correct decisions. The price doesn't tell you which one to make. It tells you what you need to know to make it. But if every person has their own value for this card, if mine is different from yours and different from the guy that paid the higher price, whose number ends up on the price tag? Let's go back to my build and find out. My new build also needs memory, RAM. It's what the computer uses to keep things running while you're doing stuff. More of it, more capacity. Pretty simple. These are sold in sticks. For this example, we're going to consider sticks that are the same size, same speed, and same price tag. Going price for one of these right now is about $100. Do I buy the first one? Buying the first one is a no-brainer. Without it, the computer doesn't run. The first stick is the difference between having a computer and not having one. $100 for that is reasonable. I'd pay more if I had to. Second stick, same $100. Do I buy it? The computer runs on one stick, but for what I actually want it to do, editing video like this one, running a few things at once, I need more memory. Easy yes. Third stick, same $100. Do I buy it? The build runs fine on two. The third stick gives me some headroom, nice to have, not needed to have. At $100, I'm probably out. Unless the seller cuts me a deal. The bundle deal has me buying the third stick at effectively $70 instead of $100. And at $70 for a real performance upgrade that I may grow into, maybe. Now I'm thinking about it. Fourth stick, same $100. Do I buy it? No. Even at the bundle price, no. I don't need it. The performance gain after the other three sticks is small. I've got other things to spend money on. Unless that bulk deal gets really aggressive, if they're throwing in the fourth stick at $20 just to clear inventory, sure, I'll take it. Maybe just as a backup in case one of the other three fail. But that's not happening at $100. Same product, same price tag, different answer each time. But if the going price is $100 either way, then who said it? Not me. I would have bought the first two at more than that, and I wouldn't have bought the fourth one at the bundle price. Not the seller either. They'd love to charge more if buyers would pay it. The price is set by the next decision of both parties, the one right at the edge of yes or no, at the margin. And that's why prices can move so fast. One marginal trade at a different number and the whole signal shifts. Remember the graphics card I wanted? The sudden demand for computer components raised the price so dramatically because on the margin, the AI company said yes over and over again, even as the price went up. Each marginal yes is a signal to producers to make more. Millions of preferences compressed into one bid, telling the supply chain what to do, and so the price continues to go up. If they'd started saying no, it would move back down just as fast. So far, we've been looking at the buyer side. But the seller is doing the exact same math. Maybe some of you have been on that side and have experiences like mine. As a teenager in Alaska, I owned a landscaping company. I'd worked for another landscaper the year before, so I knew what the going rate was when I started out on my own. My first summer, I had wide open capacity, empty days. I needed clients. So I knocked doors in my neighborhood and undercut my old boss. By a lot. I even did some jobs for free, hoping a free lawn now would turn into a paying customer next month. My opportunity cost at the time was leisure, probably video games. So anything I made or any customer I lined up for later beat sitting around. But as I filled my schedule, that changed. By 70% capacity, I was charging market rate. And at 100% capacity, I was charging above market because I offered quality work and had a waiting list. The next job I took meant turning down a different one. The customers were bidding for my time. So I bought more equipment and hired more labor. That brought my capacity up, making space for more customers. But I didn't drop my prices. I held them at the previous high. I knew the schedule would fill again. Quality work brings the customers back. And I wasn't going to leave margin on the table that I'd regret. I could have kept that loop going. Hire, fill. Could have built a lawn care empire if I'd wanted to. But lawn care is geographically bound, and I wanted out of Alaska. So I gave my customer list to the guy who'd originally showed me the business. Same guy whose rates I'd undercut years before. Sold my equipment and left the 49th state to embark on the adventures of my young adult life. The opportunity cost of staying wasn't a number on a spreadsheet. It was the life I wanted to live somewhere else. And that's a calculation no one but me could have made. The computer manufacturer making the RAM in my build is doing the same math. Cost of production, other opportunities they could be pursuing, against what a willing buyer will pay. The price is where both sides cleared that bar. This is true of all voluntary transactions. Both parties believe they benefit or they would not make the deal. This is the essence of economizing. A massive, complex system effectively putting resources to their most preferred uses. The signal is being modulated every time that happens. At the margin, the next buyer, the next seller, the next yes. There's one more layer to this. The market compresses everything into a price signal. We've talked about subjective value and the margin, but what's actually happening when all our different preferences become a number we can all read? Let's try something. Imagine you're starting a YouTube channel. You've got $2,000 to spend on anything you can think of to help you grow. What do you buy first? Maybe a new computer. That's top of the list. Bought. What's next? Maybe a better camera so you can stop using your phone. After that, maybe a tablet for a teleprompter. Then a microphone. Then lights. And on and on. That's how preferences work. There's always a next most desired thing. You rank them in order without thinking about it. We call that kind of ordered list ordinal. Now check this out. Prices are not ordinal numbers. A price is a fraction. Price over all the money in the economy. That's what makes it a cardinal number. A real quantity you can compare, divide, weigh against your wallet. Prices are always cardinal. Preferences are always ordinal. Watch what happens when we mix them up. If I asked you to put your friends in order of whose company you enjoy most, you could do it. Maybe not out loud, but you could. But you would never put numbers on it. You wouldn't say, I prefer Jim 68%, Bob 22%, and Tom 10%. That doesn't make any sense. Nobody thinks that way. Nobody talks like that because preferences are ordinal. You can rank them, but you can't put cardinal numbers on them. They don't live in that kind of math. But that's exactly what the market does. Every moment, with every preference of every person in the entire world. And here's the thing about how. Every time someone tries to explain it, the smartest economists who have ever lived, they end up in the same place. Every voluntary trade is one more preference expressed. The price moves, the next trader sees the moved price, they make their own call against it. The price moves again. None of it stops. Nobody is in charge. None of our preferences ever become cardinal numbers. They stay ordinal. We rank one thing over another all the way down. The cardinal number lives in the motion of the continuous market activity. The price is what that motion looks like from the outside. Stop the motion, and the price doesn't exist. There's nothing waiting somewhere to be computed. That motion is called price discovery. That's the magic of the market. It takes something that can't be measured, preferences, and turns it into something that can, a number, the price. Clean signal means you can use your own unique knowledge of your own situation to make your own choice, wherever you are, whatever you're working with. The market doesn't need to know your ranking. It just needs to give you the number you'll use to compare it against everything else. This is an emergent property of the market. Nobody designed it, nobody invented it, and nobody can centrally engineer it. Just like radio waves, the market is something we discovered, not something we built. Nobody created either one. Both of them carry information. You tune into a station to hear a song, you look at a price to make a decision. And that's the whole thing. Amazing in how simple it is. Subjective preferences, modulated at the margin, compressed into a number anyone can read. One signal, no one in charge of it. That's economics. That. At the start I told you, get the right thing in focus and the answers become clear. This was step one. If you want to know why your economic life keeps getting harder, why groceries cost more, why housing keeps slipping out of reach, why your wages buy less every year, that's where we're going next. One thing before I go, if this landed, if something snapped into focus, like it. That helps it find the next person who needs it. In the comments, push back. Tell me what didn't click. Tell me what you want more of. This works because it's a conversation. I read them and I answer. Every term I use today is in the description. So are some I hinted at but didn't name. The knowledge problem, emergent order, why a market coordinates without anyone in charge. Brief explanations there. Each one gets its own video down the road. An army of principles can penetrate where an army of soldiers cannot. Common sense. Subscribe and let's make it common again. And I'll see you in the noise.